Hello, my fellow warriors. Welcome to the Warrior Insights channel, where today's topic of discussion is the launch of Worldcoin, humans versus AI. Before I begin, I'd like to remind you that the corresponding article to this video may be found at athenaangelique.substack.com. Now, I know George Gammon covered this topic a few days ago, but I wanted to delve into certain aspects of this Worldcoin a little bit further than he was able to cover. In case you were unaware, distinguishing humans from artificial intelligence is going to be a major problem online. People have already been doing AI spoofs and voice cloning and phishing and trying to trick people into giving them all sorts of money by pretending that their loved one is in an emergency. So it is happening. But what's interesting about Worldcoin is that its inventor, Sam Altman, is also a partner in the invention of ChatGPT and OpenAI. So basically, he's trying to protect you from one of his own inventions. Now, Worldcoin released a white paper, and I'm going to go into some of the details of the white paper. Worldcoin consists of privacy-preserving digital currency network, or World ID, built on proof of personhood, and where laws allow a digital currency, or WLD. And every human is eligible for a share of WLD because they are a person. Basically, Worldcoin is giving the individual the ability to assert they are a real person without having to reveal their real-world identity. And if you look in bold, something very important stands out to me, which is the hidden language, making it difficult to vote online or distribute value on a large scale. Worldcoin, World ID, could become a global proof of personhood standard. But I wanted to outline again online voting and universal basic income. Given the timing of the release of Worldcoin, about 16 months ahead of the 2024 presidential election, it seems like enough time to sign enough people up to get them to vote online. But if you were aware of what happened with the 2020 presidential elections and all the things that went wrong there, I can only imagine what they could use Worldcoin for in the digital world to, let's say, provide votes. And if dead people were able to vote in 2020 with stuffed ballot boxes, who knows what they could do online with a World ID. Just remember this lovely quote here. Those who vote decide nothing, and those who vote count the votes decide everything. So now that we've found another way to install another puppet as the so-called leader of the free world, what do you think is next? Currency. One can still use currency outside the watchful eye of the government right now via your fiat paper currency, but what happens when they ban cash in more places and insist that you use WLD? They will track everything. Well, how does Worldcoin work? Going back to the white paper, Worldcoin revolves around a World ID, a privacy-preserving global identity network. You can prove that you're a real human, as if those little checkboxes, captcha, robots aligning the pictures weren't enough. But then it protects you against bots, Sybil attacks on social media, and enable the fair distribution of limited resources. Again, furthermore, World ID can also enable the global democratic process and novel forms of governance via quadratic voting, and it may eventually support a path to AI-funded UBI. So how do you join? Well, to engage with the Worldcoin protocol, individuals must download a World app, and then you have to go to visit a physical imaging device called an orb. Basically, you show up to the orb, and it captures and processes images of an individual and their unique iris patterns. Since no two people have the same iris pattern, and these patterns are very hard to fake, the orb can accurately tell people apart from one another without having to collect any other information about them, not even their name. World ID recipients are not required to share their name, phone number, email address, or home address. And by default, these images are automatically deleted unless the user opts in to data custody. Data custody will decrease the probability and frequency of the user's need to re-verify the World ID. And Worldcoin users may choose to share additional data, but this is never required. Okay, great. But then you read the privacy notice and you will find out this is false. In order to use Worldcoin services, you have to submit data such as first and last name, email address, phone number, feedback and correspondence, address book contents, location information, enterprise data, P2P marketplace, application data, online identifiers, usage data, cookies, and wait for it, transaction data, clickstream data, performance metrics, and fraud indicators. So basically, you can download the app, you can go to the orb, they can delete your information except for your iris pattern, and then when you want to use the services, you got to submit all the aforementioned. Great. So basically, you're anonymous until your transaction data violates your social credit score status, until your clickstream data leads to websites marked extremist, and until your transactions look like possibly, potentially, maybe fraud, or maybe you donated to the wrong political campaign or protest movement. Well, all right, so what's the big deal? They collect that information about me already on my computer and what I'm doing, and they could get my iris scan and my fingerprints from, the Clear Traveler program because I wanted to cut the line and they already have my iris scan. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this. Using biometric data for building ethnically targeted bioweapons. Wow, you didn't think I was going there, did you? Well, here I am. A few weeks ago, RFK Jr. brought to light what has already been going on. He brought to light a peer-reviewed BMC medical journal which reported that based on ACE2 and TMPRSS2 polymorphism analysis, certain races, as well as people with certain diseases, are more susceptible to COVID-19. According to the study, ethnic Chinese, Finns, and Ashkenazi Jews were the least susceptible to COVID-19, while people of African descent and Caucasians were the most susceptible. And this was discovered in another paper, which was reviewed in March of 2021 by the Annals of Laboratory Medicine. So RFK Jr. wasn't stating that COVID-19 was deliberately engineered to target specific ethnicities, but he was saying it was more of a proof of concept that you can develop bioweapons that will attack certain ethnicities, and this should be terrifying to all of us, and I 100% agree. But this has been going on for a while. This isn't just brand new research. Over 22 years ago, a September 2000 report stated advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the real of terror to a politically useful tool. And in 2019, Cambridge University's Center for the Study of Existential Risk stated, such weapons would have the power to target specific DNA and kill certain races of people, leaving other swaths of population unharmed. I mentioned this in a previous Substack that I wrote called Chinese Balloons and Facts About High Altitude Capabilities, that experiments with bioweapons have been in existence since the 1950s. But those bioweapons were dropped from balloons and they were not targeting specific ethnicities. Basically, it was a bioweapon that you just release on the public and it would just kill everybody. That's what they were going for back then. But now with gain of function research and these biolabs have gotten so advanced that they can actually target with precision specific ethnicities with these designer bioweapons. Let's call it what it is. But how are they getting your DNA in order to do such a thing? Well, Millions of you have already given your DNA voluntarily. How? Well, these lovely collection programs called Ancestry.com and 23andMe and other heritage services. And if you've participated in one of these and given your biometric data, well, the Chinese may already have it. Because why? They either hacked it or bought it, and other companies are doing the same. There was a 60 Minutes interview with a former top counterintelligence official, and he basically says millions of Americans have given away their DNA, and it's very risky. These genetics tests are largely unregulated and could expose personal and genetic information. Outside parties are exploiting the use of the genetic data. Even the government isn't comfortable with where the genetic data goes. And they told the military members not to submit their genetic data to these types of services. But they didn't warn the general public. That's interesting. The value is in the data. It's not just the genealogy companies. Everybody is looking at what kind of data do I have access to, how much do I have, and then how can I turn around and monetize it? That's right. Your DNA was sold for a price. And now enemies have it and can design these bioweapons based upon the free information that they bought or collected or hacked or whatever these databases gave them. So, are you convinced? Do you want to stop by your local orb and have your iris scanned or submit your iris to clear or known traveler programs just because you want some UBI or to cut the line or an easy way to pay for your groceries or convenience? Well, your privacy online is well protected, right? Wrong. I would never, ever believe what one of these companies say when they're going to delete your data and you don't even have to give them your name, because you know what? In order to use these services, you're going to have to give them everything they want and more, because, well, it's just the service and they'll delete everything. No big deal, unless you do something bad, and what they consider bad probably changes every day. So what can you do to protect yourself? Well, I wrote a Substack article called Biodigital Convergence, and I included some tips on that article, which you can definitely click through this article and get to that one to read those tips. But here's some new ones. Again, be wary of new Worldcoin, central bank digital currencies, FedNow, and other convenience applications that promise you financial and social freedoms with anonymity. Under the right conditions, you will never remain anonymous. Do your best not to voluntarily submit your data, blood, iris scans to ancestry sites, cell phone applications, or known traveler programs. Now, the reason why I said do your best not to voluntarily give it is sometimes you may have to have your photograph taken before you travel internationally. Like I had to have my photograph taken twice just to go to the Bahamas, but it wasn't an iris scan, that was more facial recognition, and that's because I wanted to leave the country. So some things you may not be able to avoid, but don't necessarily voluntarily give your DNA over to these ancestry sites or banking platforms or your iPhone or anything that uses your iris scan or your fingerprint. Don't give them the data voluntarily if you can avoid it. And then read the privacy notices of everything that you sign up for. Again, they might try and sell you that everything's anonymous, you don't have to give your name, your email, but then read the privacy notice and find out the details of what you're really signing up for. For example, I just applied for Avis's Premier program, which will allow me to skip the line and not have to wait. But then I read, and I kind of suspected this, but if you read the terms and conditions, you have to understand that at any point, and this is scary, they can activate features such as remote lock unlock, remote disable engine, cancel ignition, automatically transmit vehicle data such as location, odometer, fuel level, and other data during your rental. And vehicle and personal data are collected, used, retained, and disclosed for purposes stated in the privacy notice again. So they want, every system wants to collect as much data on you as possible. And trust me, it is not for good purposes. It is not to help you. It is not to be convenient. It is to be used against you to restrict your freedom, to restrict your movement, and to take control over society and have as much power above you or on you or whatever as possible. Don't voluntarily hand over your information. If you have to, make them work for it. And don't fall for free anything, free money, free gifts, free coupons, whatever, if it means compromising your DNA and your personal data. I know there's a fine line where you're going to have to give it up anyway, to some extent, but you don't have to give them everything that they want, because that's where everything caves. You can fight against this. Do your part. That's why I try to bring this information to you. I want you to stay informed and be aware of what's coming. So, until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, ever forward.